I'm going to snap a picture of that password right there. You can have a portal to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you.
Officers reading a reporter her rights, snapping photographs, and taking away computers.
This is a wild story coming out of small town Marion, Kansas, as local newspaper, the Marion County Record, got firsthand experience of what the new normal would be in our country if we don't continue to fight against the right wing.
In terms of what we've heard from Eric Meyer, he's the co-owner of the publication, he tells CNN that the Marion County Police Department raided both his home and his publication's office last week. He adds that police seized things like computers, cell phones, and other materials. Meyer suggesting that this was all partly triggered by a story that was published mentioning Carrie Newell, the owner of a local coffee shop.
The searches conducted on Friday appeared to be linked to an investigation into how a document containing information about a local restaurateur found its way to the local newspaper, and whether the restaurant owner's privacy was violated in the process. The editor of the newspaper said the raids may have had more to do with the tensions between the paper and officials in Marion, a town of about 2,000 north of Wichita, over prior coverage.
As first reported by another local news outlet, the Kansas Reflector, the local business owner at the center of the controversy, Carrie Newell, lashed out on Facebook at the paper after the Record reported on her kicking out their staffers who were covering a public forum event for Republican Representative Jake LaTurner at her restaurant. Just from this brief blurb on his official site, you should be able to tell exactly the type of person he is. The Marion County Record would then obtain information from an anonymous source about Newell's previous DUI charge and continue driving without a license, which the paper decided not to publish since they suspected it was from Newell's soon-to-be ex-husband, opting to pass the info on to the same police department that would violate their rights and raid the paper's office and the 98-year-old owner's home, which also prompted Newell to publicly accuse the paper of illegally obtaining and disseminating the documents about her previous charges.
Alleging violations of identity theft and authorizing the seizure of any documents pertaining to Newell. Newell, for her part, telling CNN that she was, quote, flabbergasted when she learned about the raid and denied knowing that it was even in the works.
That prompted a search warrant, though federal laws protect journalists from search and seizures and instead require a subpoena. But the chief of the Marion Police Department says in a statement, there are exceptions, like, quote, when there is reason to believe the journalist is taking part in the underlying wrongdoing.
Newell would also defend herself further, as the Kansas Reflector reported, again accusing the paper's reports of twisting facts and having an agenda against her in the classic Trumpian style of painting news media and journalists as villains, a key component of selling fascism to the general public, and weakening the power of civilians to hold those in power accountable. The search warrant, seen here and signed off by Marion County District Court Judge Laura Villar, paints a chilling picture of how easy it is for those empowered to abuse their authority, to intimidate dissenting voices, with multiple legal experts like Emily Bradbury, director of the Kansas Press Association, calling the raid an assault on the very foundation of democracy, and former New York ACLU board president Stephen J. Hyman saying that it appears the raid was more to silence the newspaper than to get evidence of a legit crime in interviews conducted by the Daily Beast. And if First Amendment violations and abuse of power from law enforcement weren't upsetting enough, the 98-year-old co-owner of the paper, Joanne Meyer, tragically passed away just a day after her home and office was raided, leading her son Eric to believe that the stress of the event played a key role in her untimely passing. Eric said that Joan, seen here, was apparently too stressed to eat or sleep after being traumatized by the raid, filled with fear and anger at how the police department ignored the law to retaliate against the paper. This is the danger that assaults on press freedom and the media pose. The weaponization of law enforcement to settle a private citizen's problem is not how the system should work. But it's unfortunately an innate part of the system. The more power and influence someone has, the easier it is for them to bend the public to their will, which is exactly how we've arrived at this point in our country's history. This is an unfolding story. We'll keep you updated. So far, flat out awful.